Shaykh Kafani Cissé. He'll be coming up. And Shaykh Kafani Cissé, born in Flint, Michigan, was raised in Detroit, and from an early age, as a Lutheran, was always inclined towards religious study and even considered going into the ministry. During his years of study at the Center for Creative Studies, he was drawn to the realities and spiritual truth of Islam through a close friend. While attending Wayne State University, he experienced a social, political, and religious transformations, which resulted in him taking the Shahadatain in 1990. Within a couple of months taking the Shahada, he was initiated into the Ṭarīqa. A year and a half after becoming a Talib of the Ṭarīqa, he was extended an invitation by Shaykh Kafani Cissé, the permanent Tasawwuf scholar, to come and visit Senegal, West Africa, that is. With his support, I say West Africa, some people think Africa is a country and not a continent. So I had to give clarification for those who may not know. So after that, subhanAllah, with support and encouragement of Imam Salim Joseph, Sheikh Ahmed Tijāniyya favors Kafani. Kafani was given the opportunity to study more extensively in Medina-Baye, Senegal, directly under the tutelage and leadership of Shaykh Kafani Cissé. After 2 years of intensive Quranic studies at the African American Islamic Institute, he began regular engagement within the Majlis of the Shuyukh, Circle of Knowledge and Fellowship of Spiritual Leaders. During that time, he was encouraged to study Arabic at the Madrasa of the AALL, the AAII, African American Islamic Institute. To date, he is the only American to complete the primary, intermediate, and secondary phase of Arabic studies at AAII and earn a diploma. The visit to West Africa that was initially intended for 2 weeks became a 15-year journey of Islamic scholarship and exoteric studies. Alhamdulillah. Shaykh Kafani has been a khatib, instructor, and mentor at various masajid around the region, including Flint, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Michigan, and Akron, Ohio, and is an instructor for Saturday Youth Talim and Sunday Adult Training at the Muslim Center Mosque and Community Center in Detroit. That is right here. He has provided scholarly discourse, examined the Ruhul Adab and the other classic texts by Sheikh Al-Hajj Ibrahim Abdullah Niyas for a teleconference course, blog, talk radio programming, and speaking engagement for various religious and non-religious organizations. In addition to writing and discourse and lectures, Shaykh Kafani has written poetry and prose to encourage critical thinking and the soul's illumination. His knowledge of West African esoteric practice is a comprehensive one grounded in spiritual learning and years of independent study. With no further ado, Shaykh Kafani Ibrahim Cissé, let's give him a hand.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu billahi wa yawmil akhir wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad al-Fatih min al-ughliq wal khatim lima sabaqa min asr haqq al-haqq wal hadi illa siratal mustaqim wa ala alihi haqqa qadrihi wa min I'd like to first of all thank I can't call him Butch, but I can call him Bilal. He's had many titles, but the most befitting of them all is Bilal. And I call him Bilal is because he is the one who called out and called forward those to Islam, and now he's calling out and calling forward in ways such as this in the university people to Islam and to the reality of Islam. Those who are Muslim and non-Muslim, they have all become the same to him in his encouragement, and we like to thank him for having something such as this. And I'm also humbled to be on a panel such as this with so much erudition and knowledge. This is a very great thing, and it's not a small thing to me or anyone here and in our communities. So in his invitation to me, which really kind of stunned me, he wanted me to speak a little of the knowledge. We've all spoke about esoteric knowledge. We've spoken about Egypt. We've spoken about the jinn and men and all of these things. in my my studies in West Africa, and mind you, I was some of you do know I was a performer. I was traveling the world performing, and in between that time, I had a chance to go, and Shaykh Kafani Cissé, he invited me. Imam Salim Joseph was very influential with that because I didn't even know what was going on. He invited me upstairs, and he handed me the phone. When he handed me the phone, Shaykh Kafani said to me, he said, I heard you've been bringing many people to Islam. Come. That's all he said to me. Come. How? That's the radio's on. So with that in mind, and then coming and going, it was beautiful that I had been through 3 years of study in Center for Creative Studies as a designer in design school. So I had that study, and with my social political views and the things that I went through, because I was a quote-unquote nationalist at that time, and I came into Islam because I was defending Islam too much. I was like, if I'm going to defend it, I may as well become Muslim. Being a Lutheran and then coming into this, the reason why I took Islam, and I have to thank my friend Hassan Mausi and Shundi Ala Mausi, Hassan Mausi, is because I was looking for a religion. If I saw it, I could feel it. And when I was practicing with them one day and we were just performing and dancing, they said, we have to make salah. I was like, what is salah? I didn't know what salah was. They called adhan and it shattered my heart. Woo! They made salah and it shattered me. This is Islam. So with coming into Islam with this, and then after that, they had a dhikr circle. I was like, what is dhikr? Everyone else was saying, no, you shouldn't do this, this is better, these things were wrong. But wallahi, when I sat down, just as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, with the people, the halaq of dhikr, it shook me. And I said, what is this? I was asking for Allah to give me something that would change me. Because I was already established Lutheran. I was already in the ministry, but they couldn't answer any of my questions. So with this invitation and going and being able to learn, and me with my American college mind you, me being a radicalist, a nationalist coming into Islam and going, the thing I hated most when I went to Africa was they called me American. Everybody here was like, oh man, you're acting African. I got to Africa and they called me American, but alhamdulillah, I stayed long enough where they said, you're African. You're one of the many people get that confused with me up to now. So, but when I went to school and was studying and with Shaykh Kafani Cissé, I noticed things in Islam and Christianity, and I'm happy that he's doing this, that we're weaving things together. Alhamdulillah, I was able to study 2 years in a Quran school, in a Dara. And when you sit down, and the thing that fascinated me was the law. When I got this slate, they said you could buy one. I went to the market, I bought it, and at first I was frustrated because they wrote Quran. Any artist who sees Quran realizes it is very artistic. English is not artistic. It's very linear. Matter of fact, we have to write cursive to feel like we're writing. And they want to take that out of school now. So when I got this, I got the law, the first thing that struck my mind was from Christianity. I thought about Musa, alayhi salam. I was like, wow, Allah gave him these slates for him to bring, and he wrote on this law for him and gave these rules and regulations, these things to the people. So in my studies in the data, I always understood, and I was in the search for knowledge. I couldn't speak well at that time. My teacher, Sheikh Baram Sal, he studied at Azhar, and at 11 o'clock each day, he would step out of the class, and he would have a small circle of people around him. Mind you, he never looked at a book. He just sat there. They would come with books like Al-Ahdari and Risala and Famar-Tudan and books of Dinuan of Sheikh Ibrahim, and he would say quote from this and quote from that, and he would teach. This fascinated me. This is something you never see in America. You don't see this. Now in studying at the Quranic school, I had to curb my ego. I would be reciting Quran, and a young child at 8 would correct me. That's crushing on your ego. And they don't say anything. They just go. That's real. And that little sound right there was one that can crush your ego. Wallahi, for someone who's coming to college to sit on the floor, but that you will see, and some people say it's dusty, all these little children, but for the sake of Allah, and be able to listen to a child, you see the workings of Islam. And this is the teaching that they're speaking of. This esoteric knowledge is like that child. The esoteric knowledge is the one who will say what these things are saying. And so with him bringing the scholars within college and these scholars within who are amongst the Majalis, I also understood in our studies after some years, they started the program and I was able to study with Shaykh Kafani Cissé, with Shaykh Kafani Cissé, and with some other Mauritanians. I went to the madrasa. Now the madrasa was difficult for me at one time because at any time you have between 17 and 21 different subjects. You only go to school from 8 to 1. My Quran class was 3 subjects. You had to know how to recite it, write it, and in tafsir, you had to make some sense of it. I'd never been through studying like this, but what helped me was when we got to ulum, science, I kind of understood it. When we got to all of these other sciences, and what was helpful for me was that Allah, He took my learning in college and school here and took Islamic learning and brought it together. This is what He is doing. The madrasa is a school. They call it a Franco-Arab school, and then you have the majalis. And when you go sit amongst the majalis, and I liken them to Sharia and Haqiqa. Sharia has very set rules and regulations. We went to school from 8 to 1. There was no school after that. But majalis, they started about 11 o'clock. They have majalis after Asr, and you could sit with anyone at any time, and sit with them for the sake of Allah, and they will teach you. This is something that is missing with our children right now. They go to school and they come down and they don't have a majalis. They don't sit together. They don't have a group of learning. In Senegal, West Africa, the children don't just come home and not study. The parents will hire someone, even if they're in French school, to teach them a little more French at home. How many of us do this for our children now? We had that in the past, but we don't have it anymore. So there's been a disconnect between the madrasa and the majalis, and the place of learning. And also in our structure, we have the madrasa children go to school and they separate themselves from their grandparents and their parents and think they know better. I can remember when Ṭarīqa said she stood at her mother's feet. My grandmother just passed, and I always used to sit at her feet. Wisdom flowed from her mouth. But if you don't sit at your elders' feet or you don't respect them, then you will never understand that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the elder should have mercy upon the youth, and the youth should respect the elder. But if the elder does not have any mercy on the youth will never respect them. So we have this disconnect going on. And also it drew me in loving and learning Quran and loving it. My dear Muslims, if you have not learned how to recite Quran, then you don't love it yet. You might love John Coltrane, you might love whatever music and everything, but if you have not learned how to recite it or play it in your homes, and it becomes something encompassing in your heart, then you have to question your iman. Because I know Christians who will listen to their Bible and their gospel music all day and quote it verbatim. But if you can't do this, then that's my 5 minutes up. And so in this, and I'm so thankful for this, in the study of Quran and that of the Law of Fools, when we were studying and learning, when you study in America, there's a way in which you study, and I got frustrated when I came back because I studied about 2.5 years of Quran, and I have to tell you all, I am not a Hafiz of Quran. These men right here are better at me than doing that. But I sat with Hafiz of Quran. I learned from Hafiz of Quran, and I was able to study to the point where I was able to help some of them understand what is going on. And this is only by the will of Allah. And also, it is only by the blessing of a perfected teacher. He's perfecting himself, and he's a teacher. You have to get a true teacher. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had Jibril. So who are we not to have a teacher? In America, they teach you not to have a teacher, or you have a teacher who is trying to teach you in a way that they think that you should know. So therefore, there's a disconnect, and you can't understand that, and we need to get away from that. And so when I was learning and teaching, I learned of Quran because I knew 11 surahs before coming. He took me back to the Huruf Hijaiya, your nafs is going back. I went back to it, I recited my ayahs, and then he took me to Muhammad al-Rasulullah. And this ayat. And when me and Mike thinking, being an American Muslim, was like, why they ain't learning Fatiha? Even though I didn't know these kids knew Fatiha already though. Why are they learning Fatiha? It wasn't until my later learning that I realized that there are only 3 ayahs of Quran, I'm going to tell you right now, who have all of the huruf Hijaiyyah in it. Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the one. So after a child learns all of the huruf, it's more logical for them to learn this ayah. And then even more so, Allah has made it and perfected it that they are learning about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam while reciting it. So these are the things that I saw. And and when you look at these things, children used to compete with each other by reciting the 99 names. They would compete with each other to see who could recite quicker and faster the 114 chapters of Quran in Arabic. And then they would compete, and I saw some Mauritanians seeing who could recite them backward faster. This is erudition. And in closing, I'd like to say, because of this, and studying with them, and amongst the Da'ira, and amongst the learning of West Africa, and amongst sitting with these people, and seeing groups in Morocco, and other places, seeing a circle, and them sitting at pedestals, a great reminder that has been given here is the essence of something and the attribute of something. In Arabic, they call it sifa. English, the 5%ers call it a cipher. The Greeks, they call it 0. For us, this nukta, this dot, is the real 0. And if you understand the nukta, this is the dot under the ba, and we know that is an ocean that cannot be encompassed in any way. My understanding of it is that it's just not a dot, it's a tunnel that does not end. Now, in this learning and the way in which we've learned here, they call it 0, and it's just a circle. It's an unending circle, but in reality, it's only the semblance and the edge of that nukta. It isn't really the essence of that learning. It's just a semblance of it. And this is why it's the sifat and the zat, or the essence of something. And alhamdulillah, we're in a gathering such as this, who have taken the essence of learning, the essence of those who have scholarship in the university, the essence of those who have scholarships amongst the colloquial people, and brought them in essence together to speak and with erudition about the attributes of their learning, and that we can share. I'm thankful that I was able to be with you all this evening. I hope I didn't take too much of your time, but in closing, this reality that we have and this thing that we have in Islam is a very great thing, and it's something that we cannot separate from ourselves or in our learning, but it is something that we can use to encompass everything we do. And I'm thankful for all of the speakers, those of you who are Muslim and non-Muslim. Alhamdulillah, because my deen, I saw Islam in everything that you said. I didn't hear anything other than Islam here. And when I say Islam, my Imam, he's given us a very good explanation of it. He said Islam is the way in which everything in existence deals with each other. The planets is Islam. You hear the Moors just say Islam anyway. It's the way in which they all deal with each other, but Islam al-Din is the way that we deal with each other. So there's a little bit of difference. We have Islam al-Din, but the universe and everything in creation has Islam, and we're all here working together. And that Islam is like these scholars, and Islam al-Din are like us dealing with each other. And I'm glad to be with you all for the sake of Allah. I'm glad that you gave me a moment to speak, and I'm so glad that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and took a fool like me to Africa and dropped me there. I gotta say dropped me there because you think it's a joke. I went there with the intention of staying 2 weeks. And wound up staying 15 years. And also, I'm also grateful to my father who is Muslim. And I don't know how he did it either. And also my grandmother who just passed, they were able to let me do this for the sake of Allah. And if it was up to me and someone would have told me I was going to be there 2 years before I can, you might not have seen me up here right now. So everything is with the qadr of Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you.